everybody. It's so good to see everybody. We've had such a fantastic session so far, and I'm just really happy to be part of this amazing session. My name is Susie Ongwira, and I'm going to be your host today. Trust me, nobody gets my name correct the first time. It's just one of those things. It's difficult. And I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker. His name is Evan Mawarire, and he's going to be speaking to us about mobilizing people for a social cause. I'm just going to do a little bit of an intro, Ivan, of you, just a little snippet, so that people can get to know a little bit about you, and then I'm going to hand over to you, sir. So Ivan is a Zimbabwean clergyman who founded the hashtag This Flag Citizens movement to challenge corruption, injustice, and poverty in Zimbabwe. The movement's main objective is to empower citizens to hold government to account, and through various viral videos and engagements and sessions, the movement has organized multiple successful non-violent protests in response to unjust government policies. And, for his phenomenal work, he was imprisoned and tortured in 2016, 2017, and 2019. And we just thank God that you are out here and you are not serving this 80 years in prison. And we are very, very excited to really glean from you. And Ivan continues his work as a speaker and a trainer on non-violent citizen-driven change, democracy development, and human rights. So, sir, you have 40 minutes to deliver all this knowledge that you have. We are very, very excited to be able to be with you. Guys, feel free to engage with us in the comment sections. Drop every question that you can think of, and we will have a nice slot for you at the end where we are able to do a Q&A with Ivan. Ivan, over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very, very much. Susgo, this is such a small world, because I saw the surname Ngwira and I thought, I know one other Ngwira, but I thought, nah, there's no way. And then just before the session started, I get a text message from Watipa Ngwira, who's your brother, and says, hey man, you're about to do a session where my sister is, hosting this session. So I know the Ngwiras from way back. Watipa and I were in junior school together. He was my senior. So I've got a good feeling. I'm amongst friends here. All right. And it means whatever crime that I'm going to commit here together with you guys are now accomplices. And, whatever part of this journey that, I usually face, including jails and so forth, you guys can now also, be a part of that. But thank you so much for the time and asking me to come and speak. This is something I am extremely passionate about. Change, bringing change, engineering change. I love, doing this, because for me, it is the heartbeat of the human race. This is what being a human being is about. It is about bringing change, being part of change. It is about being change yourself. And so I've now often described myself as a change maker. And that's what I do. So I've got a couple of minutes with you guys. I might not use the entire 40 minutes. You might hear a dog barking in the background. That's because it is a dog. You might hear a baby crying, because it is a baby, because that's part of what working from home and all of these things now present us with. So I might not use my entire 40 minutes, but I'll look forward to a Q&A at the end of this, at the end of my talk. So, we are probably in the middle of the most, at least for me, this is the way I look at it. We are probably in the middle of the most people-driven change era that we've ever seen in human history. And when I say people change, I mean social transformation that is born out of people organizing themselves, or should I say, organizing themselves against the powerful flow of instituted or elected systems of governance and business. And we can see this through the new business models that have, come through technology. Technology has allowed, for us to disrupt, whether it's the way in which people are transported, that's the Ubers, or socially connected, that's the different platforms. Recently, there's a new platform that's out called Clubhouse, or even access banking. It's all been radically challenged and changed. And ordinary people who either had no access or no voice or no ability to hold the powerful to account can now do it. And for me, that is really exciting. So my story, I know Suzgo gave you a little bit of that already. In 2016, I recorded a 4-minute video that not only changed my life, but also... That's not coming from me. Okay. I could hear a sound there. I thought it was coming from me. You guys can still hear me? Can I see a thumbs up if you can still hear me? Okay, good. So in 2016, I recorded a 4-minute video that not only changed my life, but also changed my nation, Zimbabwe. And in that video, I spoke about how it was now time for us to speak up against corruption, injustice, and poverty in Zimbabwe. That video went viral, some of you may know, and we launched a citizens movement called #ThisFlagCitizensMovement. And for 4 years, this movement taught people how to harness technology and use their voices together. And that's the key word, together, to demand accountability, transparency, and change. As small, powerless people, we did what the professionals said was impossible. We challenged and we exposed dictatorship. We launched daring debate protests. We organized the biggest boycott protest that shut down the entire country, not once but twice. During the course of our work, which we still do in Zimbabwe, by the way, in just a very different form. We marched on the streets. We drew up petitions. But we also faced the brutality of the regime. We were beaten, arrested, jailed, tortured, but we did not stop speaking up and demanding the change that we wanted. There's so many lessons for other change makers from what we did successfully and what we did not do so well. So for me, the core of bringing change is always the ability to organize people around a single idea so that they see and want the benefit of the change. So I'll share with you, this afternoon, evening where you are, I'll share with you my 5 commandments for starting change. All right, my 5 commandments for starting change. And I don't have a whole presentation, so you have to deal with my face and voice, and hopefully you can take notes from that. I was just watching the end of Honey's talk, and I saw a wonderful presentation, and I thought, oh, I wish that was me. So, Honey, I will be sending you my talk so you can create it for me as well. All right. So my 5 commandments of starting change, and I'm sharing from really my own experiences, from the journey that I walked. The journey that I walked when we did the things, that we did, and hopefully through that, some of these things can make sense. Commandment number 1 for me, when you are mobilizing people for change, this is a very simple one, and it may be a little bit in your face, but it is what it is. Commandment number 1, show up or shut up. Simple. Show up or shut up. Too many people wait for change to happen. Too many people wait for change to happen. And the fact is this, it is that change does not happen, it is made to happen. By far the most important aspect of the change process is showing up. Too many people want change, but they want someone else to do it. And this for me is one of the things that I find really strange about people wanting change, is that they want it, but they want someone else to do it. We wish for change and hope that a genie will pop out of a bottle somewhere and grant us 3 wishes. It doesn't work like that. The only change that will be meaningful to you and those around you is the one you personally get involved in. What does showing up look like? It's when you draft the document and take it to the council office and demand that they take action. It's when you go door to door asking for signatures. It's when you call the community together to discuss street lighting, trash collection, school bullying, or police harassment. It's when you actually start the organization to combat drug abuse or launch the social enterprise that will make access to health for pregnant mothers easier. Here's my point. The change you want cannot be outsourced. Let me say that one more time. The change that you want cannot be outsourced. Or as we said during our days with #ThisFlag, we said this about the work we were doing, that the struggle cannot be subcontracted. I'll say that one more time. The struggle cannot be subcontracted. The notion that someone else will do it, or the notion that I'll wait for change to come. I remember saying this in a talk a couple of weeks ago concerning change and bringing change, is that change, we don't wait for change to come to us, but we bring change out of us. By its very nature, change is not resident outside, it's on the inside. If we wait for change to come to us, if we wait for things to change by themselves, we just wait. All we are doing is we are allowing status quo to comfortably evolve into whatever it wants to be. Ouch, no, come on. I'm a pastor and I get, when I speak good, I can hear amen. So I can hear you guys say amen. And that's the thing.
Amen. Amen.
Amen, brother.
Amen.
Change, see, by its very nature, changing things. We are not waiting for the environment to change, because then it's not change. If we wait for it to change, and if it ever does change on its own, then it's not real change. It's just the comfortable evolution of status quo. I'll leave that. So that's number one. Number two, commandment number two, in terms of mobilizing people for change or to bring change. Commandment number two is this: simplify. Simplify. What most organizations that are set up for change often get wrong is that in a bid to convince people to follow them, they complicate their idea in jargon or increase barriers to access and contributing. You've got to simplify. You've got to make things plain. Remember, you're trying to onboard people. You're trying to onboard as many people as you can. And this is the thing about change, is that change is dependent on how well you are able to reach those people that are affected by the status quo to stand up for themselves. So the truth of it all is that the simpler the message or idea is, the easier it is for people to onboard. When mobilizing people, you're trying to include people, not exclude them. Simplicity in communicating the idea and how people can get involved is the next most important aspect of mobilizing for change after the idea itself. Let me say that again. Simplicity in communicating the idea and how people can get involved is the next most important aspect of mobilizing for change after the idea itself. Here's a big point if you're taking any notes. The degree of desire for change is directly linked to the perceived benefit with it or the perceived loss without it. I'll say that one more time. The degree of desire for change in people is directly linked to the perceived benefit with the change or the perceived loss without the change. One of the things I did when I started #ThisFlag was to speak the issues that were happening in Zimbabwe in everyday language. I was not an academic about it, because I'm not an academic. And all I did was talk about the lack of education the same way that people on the street talk about the lack of education, is to talk about the fear of an economic collapse the same way that the old ladies at the market talk about the fear of the economic collapse. And it was just simple in everyday language. And this meant that everyone could understand and relate to the benefits or losses, and eventually they could all participate. If participating in the process means that one must have say for example, an email address, or one must pay a subscription first, you're probably not going to have a meaningful uptake. My point here is that reduce the barriers to understanding and caring about the issue and the barriers to participating by simplifying. If you're going to build a movement, or if you're going to build momentum for a cause, and it's going to take root, it's going to become something that people on board, you have to simplify. Simplify understanding it, number one, and simplify participating in it, number two. That's your job. That's what you are there to do. The cause already exists. Just simplify understanding and simplify onboarding, and you'll be amazed at the progress you make thereafter. Number three, work with the nobodies. I love this one. Work with the nobodies. Most people think that if you get big celebrity names onto a campaign, then it'll succeed. There's nothing wrong with celebrity influencer endorsements on an idea, but that is sometimes how great ideas for change often die. Sometimes it is the big celebrity names we get that actually kill the idea without us even knowing it, okay? The most powerful ideas that have brought change are ones that were initiated and owned by a group of people who nobody knew or cared about, but were determined in their quest. Let me say it one more time. The most powerful ideas that have brought change are ones that were initiated and owned by a group of people who nobody cared, who nobody knew or cared about, but were determined in their quest. As a nobody myself, I loved working with other nobodies because we were committed to the cause and not how the cause made us look. This was not about image, it was about making sure that we got the result. The cause itself was our somebody. That's what our celebrity was. It was our special somebody that we worked hard to promote. It was not about gaining likes or popularity when we did what we did. It was about getting the change we wanted when we first set out. We had no constituency to please except ordinary people like ourselves. So we put our heads down and we worked. Without a doubt, the first people to respond to movements that bring change are often the nameless and faceless unknown who are really impacted by the status quo. If I make any important point on that one, let it be that very one, that the first people who will usually respond to a call for change on they usually respond to a mobilization around a cause are usually the nobodies. They're usually the people that no one knows. And that's because these are the people who are most impacted by the status quo. People who have means, and I know that I know it may feel like, well, you know, I don't think that may be true because, you know, people who have means always come to causes. No, they do come to causes, but here's what we discovered in our journey in the call and the mobilization of people that we were looking for when we were looking for change, you know, in Zimbabwe. We discovered that people who have means or have ways to deal with the effects of the status quo won't come at the beginning because they have options. People, let me tell you, people who have means, people who have their things in order, who are unaffected by the big status quo, when you make the call at the beginning, they don't come because they've got options. They have a way out. They can pay their way out of how the status quo affects them. But you get people who nobody knows, who nobody cares about. They have the least, they're the poorest. They are the ones who show up first for the cause. And I found that those are the most valuable people to work with because they have nothing to lose and they have nothing to lose and everything to gain if the change comes to town. So work with the nobodies. For me, you get further. For me, you start out with just one agenda. It's eventually when that group of people, of nobodies, has grown and has become big enough that the somebody starts to knock on your door and start asking for a seat at the table. And they start asking, can we also represent? They start asking, how can we also participate? But it's one of the ways to also protect the integrity of the mobilization process, or should I say the integrity of mobilizing for the cause, is that you're not doing it for the attention of the rich and famous. You're doing it for the attention of the people who are affected by that which you're standing up for. And that's what matters the most. Okay. So the nobodies come to commit themselves to the hard work of setting up, of consistently showing up. And when the momentum eventually comes, those nobodies, and I say nobodies not in a derogatory way, because I understand how powerful it is, but those nobodies become the bedrock of the movement and the work that you're doing. Excuse my dog, he keeps complaining. He wants to go for a walk. Okay. Number 4, if you're taking notes, rule number 4 or commandment number 4, in mobilizing for change, in mobilizing people for change, serve people. Always serve people. At the core of all lasting and impactful change is people. The greatest voices for change, the largest movements for transformation have always had serving people as the core of what they do. Even companies that have innovated the best products or processes have literally set out to serve people first. You've probably heard the saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's true for mobilizing people for change. Let me say this. If your mobilization of people is driven by anything other than serving people, it probably won't get far. And I understand this concept because people, the thing is that when whether it's people in organizations or in authority, when they look at people, one of the things that they think in their mind is that the people are stupid. Nothing could be further from the truth. They are not stupid. People know. They know who cares and they know who doesn't care. And when we look at the political landscapes of our country, sometimes we think, how is it that we actually believe this individual? No, people didn't believe the individual who eventually won the seat, the parliamentary seat or the presidential seat. No, people just played along with the way that they were. They played along with the way the thing was set up. When powerful people are in power, they know how to steal a vote or how to steal an election. But understand that people know, they know who genuinely cares and who does not care. And this is an important aspect of mobilizing people for change. Showing that you care or actually caring is a very important aspect, of bringing change. So let me say this. If your mobilization, or should I say, if your mobilization people, and I said it before, if you're not serving people, it probably won't get far. You have to be clear from the start how your call for change is serving people and making lives better, easier, and more worthwhile. So from the beginning, with your cause for change, from the start, from the get-go, with whatever it is that you're wanting to change, it's got to be clear how you are serving people. Our work with this flag was all about serving people. We wanted better access to health. We wanted to know what was happening with our taxes. We wanted the corrupt arrested. We wanted everything we did pointed to improving people's lives. You will find that when people see that you are genuinely concerned about their well-being, they'll jump to be among those who want to represent the idea too, and even wanting to protect the idea as well. And that's why that's important. If when someone discovers, think of some of the products that you have enjoyed using in terms of commercial products that you've enjoyed using over the years. When you discover in your heart and you feel like, I feel like they care about me and they care for me. If there is a public debate about that particular product, usually you jump to defend it. You're not even paid, you're not even employed by them. But the sense that, no, they care, these people care about me, makes you an advocate for them. It's the same thing with change. You want people to come on board because of the way you care, because of the way that you are invested in their well-being, the way that you are invested in them getting the fullest benefit of this idea coming to fruition. They return the favor by giving you their involvement or their participation or their attention to be able to see the change come through. Number 5, and this will be my final one. I'm timing myself here, and I'm speaking well below my time. Number 5 is prepare for adversity. The thing about mobilizing people for change is that you're mobilizing against the status quo. The thing about mobilizing against the status quo is that it doesn't want to be changed. It's the very nature of status quo. Status quo wants to stay status quo. What this means is that you will, in capital letters, you will encounter resistance. If you're taking notes, here's a good note for you to take. Resistance is the medal of approval that change ideas are awarded by the status quo. I'll say that one more time. Resistance is the medal of approval that a change idea is awarded by the status quo. Nothing meaningful that improves people's lives is without adversity. Adversity will be a constant companion on the project of mobilizing people. Let me say this, and it may hurt to hear, but I hope it also moves you to think about what, it helps you to think about what happens on the journey of bringing change. If your mobilization for change does not encounter any resistance, it is probably working to the advantage of the status quo. I know it may be a bit rough, and I'm going to say it again just so that I can add a little bit more salt to the wound here. If your mobilization for change does not encounter any resistance, it is probably working to the advantage of the status quo. Adversity is guaranteed when you're truly changing things. So how do you prepare for adversity? Number one, firstly, you must be clear from the beginning what success looks like. That clarity will help you to stay the course when adversity comes. Knowing exactly what the outcome is going to be, we will know we have changed things when, and you can answer that. You can finish that statement. We will know when we have brought change when, and you can be clear about what it's going to look like. When the hard times come, you know to stay the distance because your when hasn't yet happened, so you don't give up. Okay? So that's number one. Secondly, empower other people in the movement or within the cause to lead and generate ideas just as you do. Empower other people within the movement or within this call for change to generate ideas or to lead just as you do. I remember this worked for us so well the first time that when I was arrested and thrown into prison. And we had 3 other people that stood up after I was taken in, and that continued to lead the movement, that continued to move the cause forward. And it helped because we hit adversity, but the idea lived on. The work can continue to go. It was not about me. It was about the people. It was about for us getting to the point, to the promised land, if I can use that word. And then thirdly and finally, and in fact, even before I move from that, when you empower other people, of course, that way you also deal with burnout, as well, because this is one of the big things that people do not realize when it comes to mobilizing people for change or for social change. It's a lot of work. It's a lot to carry, and it burns you out. You get stressed, you get traumas depending on the kind of adversity that you're going through, because what happens with people is that people, first of all, when they attack your idea, and when they see that you're sticking to your guns after they've attacked your idea, they begin to attack the person. And they start going into your personal files, and they pull out your broken marriage, and they pull out this is what happened when you were at this company, and they try to discredit the person. And sometimes that brings traumas to you as a person. And so when you have other people who are part of the movement and who can take over when you burn out or when you're going through some of these attacks, it allows the movement to carry on. It allows the idea to live on beyond you, and allows for you to refresh, to recuperate, and to be able to come back, come back once again. And here's the third and final thing in my book. There could be more, but the third and final thing to be able to do in terms of preparing for adversity is to have institutional partners who are ready to help you to navigate the adversity that the status quo will throw your way. When I say institutional partners, for example, I'm talking about, in my case, we had what is called the Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights. They became an institutional partner for us to help us deal with the adversity of being arrested and dragged to court. Could never have afforded the kind of legal bill that we had before us. But this institutional partner came through and they said, right, this is a service that we offer for people like yourselves, and we're going to make sure that you don't have to worry about that burden. We'll carry that burden, that burden for you. And sometimes it doesn't have to be lawyers only, because not everyone is getting into the kind of trouble we got into. Sometimes it is civic society organizations that have done research on this particular issue that you're representing, and they're sitting on years of research and just haven't known what to do with it. And instead of you going and doing new research, just go and access that research that they have, but have those partners. I'm going to go back to the beginning real quick, and I'm going to wrap up. My dog is making noise here. Hey, buddy, relax, bro. Okay. So let me recap these five rules, or these 5 commandments. Number 1, show up or shut up, if you remember what I said. Yeah. Too many people are waiting for change to happen, or they want other people to do it for them. Number 2, simplify. The degree of desire for change is directly linked to the perceived benefit with the change, or perceived loss without the change. So the more people who can understand and onboard the cause and the movement, the better it is. Number 3, work with the nobodies. Work with the nobodies. Most people are trying to get celebrity influencers. Most people are trying to get, some amazing people to come on board. But it's about those people that no one knows and no one cares about. It's about their hard work. It's about their determination. That's what draws in the other people to come and become part of the cause. Number 4, serve people. Always serve people. At the core of all lasting and impactful change is people. The greatest voices for change, the largest movements for transformation have always had serving people as the core of what they do. And number 5, prepare for adversity, because resistance is the medal of approval that change ideas are awarded by status quo, and nothing meaningful that improves people's lives is without adversity. I hope that I've shared something meaningful with you in all those 5 little commandments this afternoon. And I'm glad to take any questions, either from what I've spoken about or from my experiences, or maybe some stuff that you've been thinking about in trying to do what you're trying to do. And I'm happy for us to develop some solutions and answers together. Thanks very much, guys.
Sure, Evan, we were never ready. This is the problem. We were never ready. Thank you so much. So much has been shared. I mean, you may say 5, but it's very, very loaded. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to open up the floor for any questions that you may have. I know you're probably trying to digest, like I am trying to digest as well. And I had a question that I wanted to ask you, Evan, and it's around the family balance dynamic, because what you embarked on was really magnanimous, just in terms of an outsider looking in. This is not a road that most people go. How did you navigate that, family balance with what you fundamentally must have believed is what you've been called to do? How did you practically navigate that? Because I can only begin to imagine what a challenge that was like.
I think this is a brilliant question, by the way. The first thing I have to say from the get-go is the balance, the family calling balance. And I want to say calling because I left this out of this talk, but change making is not a job, it's a calling. And you have to understand this, is that it transcends your working hours. It's not about 8 to 5. And so to answer your question as I start, let me say that the work-life balance when it comes to being a change maker is a myth. It doesn't exist. Change making as a calling is going to demand that you are not only, I'm not talking about just being available to the process, beyond working hours. I'm talking about being available to the process beyond what is considered normal. The work we did, okay, let me put it this way. The work that we did had no guarantees for safety. And if you want to talk about work life or family work balance in this respect, that was thrown out of the window. It exposed everybody. It exposed me. It exposed my wife, who was pregnant at the time. It exposed my 2 little children. It exposed my mom, my dad. Everyone who was part of my close family was exposed because of the work I was doing. Now, it's a sacrifice. And if you really, really want to bring change, you have to understand that that is going to be part of what will be affected. There are no guarantees. It will be affected. And it's important then that the discussion is had beforehand with these people who are close to you, or as things unfold, that what I'm about to do, or I'm discovering that what I'm doing is going to affect you. And there may be moments in that journey or in that discussion or as things unfold that your most key relationships are affected. And in many cases, sadly, in many cases, these relationships are affected negatively. Think about it, Susgo, about some of the biggest change makers we have in the world. Let's just look at Africa. Think about how many people that brought change, especially political change, to our African countries. Think about how many of them lost their marriages. Think about how many of them, lost relationships with their children. The number of people I know who, when I speak to people that we consider heroes of nations, when I speak to their children and I ask them and I say, tell me about your relationship with your dad. And they say, well, I never really knew him. My dad was a hero to the world, but he was a villain in our family. And I don't mean to scare your point or paint a gloomy picture here. What I'm trying to say is that being a change maker and mobilizing for social change takes all of you. It asks you to give your full self to the cause. And it's important that you prepare yourself and you prepare your family and those close to you for this journey that is going to make withdrawals from their accounts, sometimes without consent. It's part of it. If you're not prepared for that, if you're not prepared for being publicly lynched on Twitter for things you never said, if you're not prepared to be maligned, if you're not prepared for your personal life to be dug into, if you're not prepared to be accused and to be lied against, if you're not prepared for your wife and your children, all of those things, then you may not be prepared for the kind of change or the kind of journey that you're looking for. It comes with the package. That is part and parcel of the process as you try to bring change that is lasting, or change that is going to be deep in the different things you may have interest in.
Thank you so much for that. I see Brightness dropped a comment here. He says, great presentation, Ivan, and guiding points, and I can relate. You pioneered the belief that we can mobilize for social change. What are your next steps? Where to from here?
Well, it's a question that I think we which I found quite interesting in terms from where to from here, where to next. People always ask me that question when we did what we did, at the time. We did this for 4 years, actually for 4.5 years. We mobilized change, we mobilized people for change, and taught people how to stand up. And I think the where to from here is already happening. It's not something that we're waiting to happen. It's already happening. One of the goals we had was to teach and to train people how to stand up, how to be voices, how to get back the agency, to speak and to stand. And since then until now, we've had a myriad of voices in Zimbabwe, outside Zimbabwe, that have stood up for different causes at different places and in different ways. So I think our where to from here already happened. We were able to model a way in which to speak truth to power, and that model has been adopted, it's been multiplied. And part of the work we do even today is that behind the scenes, we are supporting and training and encouraging different people who are at the forefront of different causes in Zimbabwe and beyond Zimbabwe. Some people are in Bolivia that we are working with. Some people are in Uganda that we're working with. So I'm not so much the face of the work that they're doing, but have developed behind them, almost a resource team and a network to help them do what they do even better.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. If you have any questions, please feel free. You can unmute yourselves and ask the question, or you can drop it in the comment section. And while I'm waiting for some of you to get the courage There you go, Losisa, because that's what I also wanted to know. Were you scared? Were you scared at any one point when the adversity came? How did you deal with it?
That's a really good question, Lucy. Was I scared? Absolutely, 100% scared. Let me give you a quick testimony. I mean, there were many points at which I was scared. Well, I think I was arrested over the 4.5 years. I was arrested 9 times. And I spent, I think about maybe 65 days in prison combined. I spent about, I had about 36 court appearances in the first 2 years of my arrest. And then, of course, there were the moments and times that we were actually beaten and at times that we were actually tortured. But the fear is one of those things that grips you. The fear that, this is the end of it. I'm finally going to lose my life. We're done. I was being driven to the prison after the court session, and the judge had decided that I was not getting bail and I was going to prison. And it's the first time I was being locked up. And I thought that I was being driven to the remand prison. And we got to the remand prison and they offloaded the other prisoners out of the truck where I was in. And then they kept me inside the truck and they said, no, you're going to go to another prison. So I thought to myself, no, whoa, wait a minute. Why am I going to another prison? I should stay here with everyone else. And in my mind, the fear began to play out all sorts of scenarios. I played out my own murder in my own mind. I played out how they were going to murder me, how they were going to beat me up, how they were going to torture me. And eventually they drove me to Chikurubi Maximum Security Prison. Now, some of the beatings did happen there, but it wasn't anything that I had imagined. And I think the problem with fear is, in fact, there is the benefit of fear and there's the problem with fear. I think that the benefit of being afraid is that it reminds you that you only have one shot at doing what you're doing and that you have to do it well. And that each time you get a chance to speak, each time you get out of prison, each time you escape an abduction, each time you're able to remain alive, you have a chance to do again what you were doing and do it better. And if that be your last time, you did well. And but the problem with it is that how much it paralyzes you from seeing some of the most amazing miracles that may be around you. When I got into the maximum security prison, one of the things that happened, which I did not even expect, was that 4 gentlemen came up to me. And I remember this so clearly, like it was yesterday, because it was a profound moment that impacted my journey. And these 4 guys came up to me and I thought that this is it. I'm going to get beaten. I'm going to get raped. Everything you've ever seen and heard about being in a, Shawshank Redemption, everything you've seen on movies about, these prisons comes back into your mind. I thought they were going to rape me. They're going to do all sorts of things. And these 4 guys came up to me and the one guy who led these 4 guys, his name is Charles. He stuck out his hand to shake my hand and he said to me, "Welcome, Pastor Evan. We've been waiting for you." And it was shocking. So I thought, "You've been waiting for me? What are you talking about?" And as my mind is processing, the fact that, okay, they've been waiting for me. Now they're going to beat me up. The guy says this, he says, "We heard about what you've been doing outside. We heard about how you've been trying to help our families." And Charles is serving a life sentence for murder. He says to me, "You have been helping my family. You've been doing for my family what I can't do for them because I'm in here." So my 4 friends and I, when we heard that you had been arrested, prayed that you would be brought to this very prison so that we could look after you, so that we could make sure that you settle in well, and so that we could make sure that when you leave this place, you were stronger than when you came. It changed my life completely. It changed the way I viewed or perceived every situation that I get into. And it just blew me away, Now, there were things that these 4 men couldn't stop from happening to me, but it helped me so much, extremely helped me, in terms of my mindset, to know that, because I'm a believer, to know that God had somehow placed these 4 men in this prison and caused them to pray for me to come to that particular prison and not any other prison, so that they could look for me as a way of saying, "Thank thank you for the work that you're doing for us outside. So yes, the fear was debilitating, but it was amazing to always see what was on the other side of our fear, or the other side of my fear, to see the breakthrough and the kind of miracles that take place. And this is another thing that I would share for those of you that are on the journey of bringing change and social change, is that I've always said to people, plan intentionally. But I've then also always said that move spontaneously and expect miracles. So those three things: plan intentionally, move spontaneously, and expect miracles. Because there are some things that the small guy needs to happen that he or she could never get from anywhere. There are some things that David needs to happen as he faces Goliath that he or she never expected would come their way. And those are the most valuable moments in the journey of bringing change. The most exciting change is brought by people who had no chance, and something happened along the way, a little shift, a little twist, an opportunity happened, and suddenly the whole thing changed and turned in their favor.
Sure. Wow. I have just one more question, Evan. You've gone through this journey. You're still going through the journey. Happy belated birthday. We know you turned 44 recently.
Thank you.
And what do you know for sure?
What do I know for sure? I think what I know for sure is that there is no night without a morning. That there is no darkness that can withstand the light. At some point, through everything that we go through every endeavor that we have, there is a point at which things turn around. And so I've learned that for sure in my darkest days and in my darkest moments where I thought that this will never turn around. I had come back 1st of February 2017. I came back to Zimbabwe after having escaped Robert Mugabe's clutches. I was in exile for 6 months. And I decided to go back home to Zimbabwe because I felt that the work we had started hadn't been completed. So I returned back to Zimbabwe. I asked my wife if I could go back. She eventually said, yes, you can go back. They stayed in a place of safety, and I took off. And 1st of February 2017, I landed at Harare International Airport. Before my passport could get stamped, I was taken and I was arrested and thrown into Chikurubi Maximum Security Prison. Never forget sitting in that prison. That was my second time being back in the maximum security prison. Never forget how dejected I felt. Never forget how depressed I was. I thought that was the end. I messed up. Like, I should not have done this. I shouldn't have come at all. But things turned around. Things changed. And within a matter of months, from February 2017 to November 2017, a change happened so much, no matter which way you look at it and who caused it. But the very person who had imprisoned me and put me in jail in November was no longer the president of the country. So my point is that there is always a change. There is always a point at which things turn around. Now, I say that about Robert Mugabe because in January of 2019, the new guy then arrested me again and threw me into Chikurubi Maximum Security Prison, and I was back there again a third time. But then again, when I got there that time, my thinking was, this will turn around. This is going to happen. This is what the Bible says, and I'll finish with this verse. It says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning.